I'm coming to you because I want to talk about CFE and your electric bill here in Mexico. Hey Remarkable Lifers, this is KJ, and I have no idea where Craig is. Well, he might be in the kitchen. He should be editing video, but we'll see. So we had a really crazy thing happen to us. The most recent electric bill that we got was 2,076 pesos, and we don't even have an air conditioning unit. Yeah, it was very interesting. That's extremely high, we found out, for the property that we are currently renting. We have several neighbors and kind of asked them after we'd been here for several months, do you mind if we ask what your electric bill is? And do you have an air conditioner? And none of them do. And most people were like, yeah, your electric bill should be under 600 pesos, for 2 months, under 600 pesos for 2 months. And so we kind of started trying to figure out what in the world's going on, because something is wrong, and did a lot of research online, talked to a lot of people, got on Facebook, all that kind of fun stuff. And, we got responses that varied from someone has tapped into your electrical, they're stealing your electrical, and, all kinds of different stuff. We had someone tell us that we ought to, this is funny, okay? They were like, okay, at night when when everybody's, it's nighttime, and so everybody's got their lights on and everything, run in your house and flip your master breakers off and see if there's another house around you where their lights go out immediately. Have someone else stand out in the street and see if the lights go off at another house. Then you'll know they're stealing your electricity. All kinds of fun stuff. So I looked at, we've gotten 4 electric bills since we've been here. And the first one that we got, we knew was going to be the electrical usage from whenever they were doing the remodeling on the house. The house that we're renting was recently purchased by our landlord. She had just purchased it. We are the first tenants. And so she had done, she'd had some upgrades and stuff done, make the house nice. And so whenever we got the electric bill, we were like, okay, that seems a little high. We're not sure because we don't really know, but it was 1,089 pesos. So then 2 months later, we get the next electric bill, and it was 1,496 pesos. And Craig and I just kind of sat back and we're like, well, maybe we're using more electricity than they did whenever they were rehabbing the property, and kind of talked ourselves around into just accepting that. And then 2 months later, we got the next electric bill, and it was 2,076 pesos. And we don't have an air conditioner. We don't have a swamp cooler. We don't have anything that would be sucking up a lot of electricity. And so we just knew something was wrong. And it was about that time that it started getting really, really hot here in Ajijic. It was May, beginning of June, and it was summer. It was the hot season here. And in our house, every afternoon around 1 to 2 o'clock p.m., when it's the hottest time of the day, you would think it was 1978 and you were in the middle of a disco, because our electrical would go off and on and off and on. And I was expecting the crystal ball to drop out of the ceiling and, the solid gold dancers to come out. It was like a disco in here. And so we just knew something was wrong. So called our property manager, and she, thank God, she coordinated with CFE, who came out and looked. They opened the meter and they looked at the meter and they called her back and they said, there's nothing wrong with the meter. Everything is fine. And so I'm like, everything is not fine. And so she sent out an electrician who came out and looked at the wiring in the house, but also more importantly, looked at the wire coming from the meter to the house. So the electrician, I was out there talking to him and everything, and he showed me, he said, well, you can see right here that the electrical wire that goes up, the conduit that goes up from the meter, is copper. And when I get to the top of the pole that goes up, the wire coming out that's feeding your house is aluminum. So what that means is that at some point, somebody spliced the copper wire to aluminum wire inside that pipe that comes up from the meter. And if you know anything about electricity, I know a little bit, and talking to the electrician, I was like, oh, okay, so what's happening is when it gets overheated, aluminum doesn't conduct electricity very well, and it also will arc. And so every time the aluminum would get overheated when it was hot outside and the amperage going through the volt or whatever going through the wire got too high, it would just arc and stop. And then it would come back on after it cooled off a little bit. So it just kept going on and on all day long, all afternoon. It was crazy. So he replaced that. He also looked at our breaker boxes and fixed, I think he had to fix a couple of things in there, but he did a pretty thorough job. And so then I said, okay, I'm going to see if this is really working, right? So every day I would go out and I would read the meter myself, and I kept track of it. And what I could see is that we were using about 2 to 3 kilowatt hours a day, which is that's good. That's normal. That's where it should be. For a house this size, with no air conditioning and all of that's about right. So I wanted to, so then we get we got our electric bill. Beginning of August, we get our electric bill for the last 2 months, and 873 pesos. So it worked. We have to remember that the billing cycle for that particular bill, because bills are every 2 months, the bill for that billing cycle, the first month, was what it was doing. So, it didn't get, the repair didn't go into place until mid-bill. So I think we're on track. Whenever we were researching coming to Mexico and everything and talking to different people, we got a lot of misinformation about CFE. So I wanted to kind of go through real quick and explain kind of how the system works in Mexico. Because I think a lot of people need to know that. So the first thing is, the electricity in Mexico is government subsidized. As long as you stay below a certain threshold within your region. So here you can see a screenshot of how do I know if I'm having a high electricity consumption. And you will see on the left-hand column there are different rate buckets. There is a monthly consumption limit and the average temperature in summer. The average temperature in summer is what drives what's called a DAC rate, and I'll come back to that in a minute. So what you want to make sure that you are, if you're checking your electric bill, you don't ever want to go to that DAC rate. So what you want to do is you want to check your electric bill every 2 months when you get it, and you want to make sure that you are staying below the 12-month limit. So on rate 1, let's look at this real quick. Rate 1, 250 kilowatt hours monthly. That would be 3,000 kilowatt hours in a year. 250 times 12. So as long as you're staying below 3,000 kilowatt hours in a 12-month period, then you won't go to the DAC rate, okay? The DAC rate, you can see what is the price of the DAC rate in Mexico for 2022 screenshot here. And what you can see is that in the different regions, and those are all based on the previous table, the average temperature in summer, that's how they figure out these rates, or the regions. In those regions, if you go above your cap, then you will be put into the DAC rate category, and you can see that those kilowatt hour costs are much, much, much more expensive. Your electric bill will more than double. It's insanity. So what I want to show you next is you can look at a copy of one of our most recent bills. And when you do that, you're going to see that down towards the bottom, I've cut it off, but you can see that there's a básico, an intermedio, and an excedente. The total period for the básico is 150 kilowatt hours. Then the intermedio is 130. That's what you need to be paying attention to. The price per kilowatt hour under 150. Now this is where we live. It could be very different in other regions of Mexico. But the price per kilowatt hour, for the first 150 kilowatts, is less than 1 it's 0.963, okay, per kilowatt hour. Then the intermediate is 1.174. And then once you go over that, then you're kicked into a higher rate, but it's still not the DAC rate. Okay. So that's how you can tell. The government subsidizes part of your bill as well, as long as you're not in the DAC. Once you go to the DAC rate, there's no more government subsidy kicking in. So you can see where this can become very, very expensive. On this printout, or the screenshot of our bill, you can see the energy kilowatt hours. You go across, you can see the total number of kilowatt hours that were used. So in our case, what I did is I looked at the total number of kilowatt hours used across the 4 bills that we've received, and then projected what they should be for the next couple of months. And we will be below the 3,000 kilowatt hours max for our region. So we should not go into the DAC rate. And that's really, really important. Because you can see, like on that bill where it said the excedente, the rate is 3.43, but our DAC rate would be, let's see here, would be 6.27, and there's no government subsidy. And it would be all the way for every kilowatt hour, not just, you wouldn't get a bicycle rate and an intermediary rate and all that stuff. It's everything. Boom. There you go. It's 6.27. So it's important to make sure that you're monitoring your electric bills, making sure that they are legit, because if they're not, there could be something wrong that you really need to investigate. Like in our case, the house had just been remodeled. Our landlord had just bought it. She had no idea. She's never lived here. So if you're buying a house, or if you're going to be renting a house that's currently occupied, you have every right to ask to see a copy of the most recent electric bill. That way and on there, if the rate is DAC, make sure you know that. Because once you go into the DAC rate, you're stuck there for 12 months. And the only way to get out of it, the only way to go back down from the DAC rate, and you're going to pay it for 12 months. But after that, the only way to get it down is to get your electric consumption below the threshold. Really, that's the only way to do it. And there's multiple ways to do that. I mean, you can limit your electrical use. You can put in solar. You can do all kinds of stuff to get your electric usage down. But that's the big thing. You've got to watch for that DAC rate. So luckily, we won't hit it. Yay, I'm so happy we're not going to hit it. And our electric bill is getting lower. So we're really, really happy about that. So I hope this video was informative. I hope it gave you some good information, and I hope that it saves you some money in the end, and hopefully saves you some heartache. So if you haven't already, go find your truly remarkable life. Bye, y'all.
My mind gets lost again and again.